So here's a question I've been wrestling with. How did we get here? How do we get to a place where an entire generation of young men, or at least a lot of them, or enough of them to make a difference, they're struggling to find purpose, meaning, and direction, where they're anxious about their future, uncertain about their place in the world, wondering if they even matter? Here's the harder question. What's our responsibility in all of this? Because I think, and this is hard for me to say, I think to some extent at least, we let it happen. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but we let it happen. We stayed quiet when we should have spoken up. We stepped back when we should have stepped forward. We let forces, cultural, social, economic forces, shape the narrative about what it means to be a man and what it means to have purpose and what it means to contribute. And now we're really seeing the result. But here's the thing, it's not too late. We can step into the breach. We can lead, we can mentor, we can guide, we can support, we can encourage. We can extend the humanity of our 30 plus years of wisdom to the next generation. And what we have to offer, it's never been more meaningful than right now. More pointed, more relevant, more important, more critical, not just for them, for all of us, for the direction of society and our country. Welcome back to Graybeard Radio. I'm Matt Hempel, your host, and this is the place where wisdom meets impact and income, and fakery is reviled. Today we're talking about stepping into the breach, why this is our time we're called to do. Let's go. All right, so let's talk about how we got there. Because if we're going to step into the breach, we need to understand what the breach is and how it happened. So over the past few decades, let's say 30, 40 years, there's been a real shift in how we talk about and conceptualize men, masculinity, what it means to be a man. And a lot of that shift has been absolutely necessary. I don't argue with a lot of it. And I'm not here to say that everything was perfect in the past. It certainly wasn't. But somewhere along the way, we went from correcting and redirecting real problems to dismissing real value. We went from saying toxic masculinity is bad to implying masculinity is bad. We went from saying men need to be more emotionally available to implying men's traditional strengths don't matter. We went from saying women deserve equal opportunities to implying men's contributions are less important. Now, I'm not blaming feminism, at least not feminism in its entirety, and I'm not blaming any one movement or ideology. I'm just saying the message that young men are getting today is confusing at best and extremely demoralizing at worst. They're being told your instinct to provide, that's outdated. Your instinct to protect, that's paternalistic. Your instinct to build, that's not as valuable as it used to be. And on top of that, they're facing economic uncertainty, job displacement from AI, potentially a housing market that feels impossible to get into, and a dating and marriage landscape that, quite frankly, can feel hostile at times. So they're asking, what's my purpose? What's my mission? And do I even matter? And here's where I think we bear at least some responsibility, because we, men in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, we've been quiet to a large extent. Kind of watched this happen. We've seen the narrative shift. We've seen young men struggle, and we haven't stepped up in a large degree, to a large extent, and said, no, this is wrong. Your purpose matters. Your mission matters. You matter. And why? Maybe because we didn't want to be seen as old-fashioned or out of touch or politically incorrect. Maybe we were just focused on our own careers, on our own lives, and our own challenges. That's totally understandable as well. Maybe because we just didn't realize how bad it was getting. But whatever the reason, we let it happen again, to some extent at least. And I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty or because I feel guilty. I'm saying it because I think it's true. And I think acknowledging it is the first step to doing something about it. Because here's the thing, we have something the younger generation desperately needs, and it's time we stepped up and gave it to them. So let's talk about what they need. All right, so what do young men need right now? Let me tell you the way that I see it. They need validation, not participation trophies, not empty praise, but validation that their instincts, their drive to build, to provide, to protect, they're all good, they're valuable, and they're needed and required. Because right now, they're getting the opposite message. They're being told those instincts are outdated. You don't need to be a provider anymore. You don't need to be a protector anymore. Just be sensitive, just be supportive, just get out of the way. And that's leaving them adrift. So I was talking to this guy in his late 20s a few months ago. Smart young guy, good job, but he was struggling. He said, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I want to get married. I really want to have a family, but I feel like almost I'm supposed to apologize for wanting that. And a lot of guys as well, I've observed, have just almost given up on uh, the American dream, if you will. And like I said, I want to be the provider. This young guy told me, and people look at me like I'm some kind of caveman. But that's how I'm wired. That's what gives me purpose. And I said to him very directly, dude, you're not a caveman. You're a man. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to provide. It's in our DNA. That's a good instinct. And that's a noble instinct. And I could see the relief on his face, like somebody had finally given him permission to be who he is and who he was born to be. And that's what they need. They need to hear that from us, the men who've lived it, who built it, who've done it, that their instincts are good, that the desire to have a mission, to build something, to provide for a family, to protect the people that they love, that's not outdated. It's not toxic. That's human. They also need a map, though, because the world they're navigating is far different from the world we navigated. But I believe the principles are largely the same. So they need to know, how do you build a career in an uncertain economy? How do you navigate relationships in a confusing cultural landscape? How do you find purpose when traditional markers of success feel really out of reach? And I believe that we can give them that map because we've walked the path. Not the exact same path, of course, but a similar one. We've all faced uncertainty in our lives. We've navigated change. We've built careers, relationships, families. We've made mistakes. Lord knows I've made my share of mistakes, and we've learned lessons. We've figured things out. And that's what they need. Not someone to solve their problems for them, but someone to show them how we solved ours, for example. And they also need hope, because right now, I believe a lot of young men are hopeless. They look at the future and they see AI taking the jobs, housing prices they can't afford, a dating landscape that feels hostile, culture that doesn't value them. And they're thinking, what's the point? Why even try? And we can give them hope, not by pretending that everything is easy or going to be easy, but by showing them that it's possible, by saying, I've been where you are. I feel what you're feeling, and I've made it through, and you can too. And here's the last thing they need, and this is a big one. I believe they need us to step up and lead, not by telling them what to do, but by showing them what's possible, by modeling what it looks like to be a man of purpose, of mission, of contribution, somebody of focus and direction, by saying, hey, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe. This is what I've built. This is what I'm passing on to you. This is where I've failed. These are the lessons I've learned. So that's what they need: validation, a map, hope, some leadership, maybe. And we can give them all of that, but only if we step up. All right, so let's talk about why this is our responsibility, to some degree at least, because I know some of you are thinking, I've done my part. I've built my career. I've raised my family. I've contributed. Why is this on me? Why are you putting this on me? And I get it. I really do. But here's the thing. This isn't about obligation in the sense of you owe someone something. It's about recognizing that we're in a unique position to make a difference, and that if we don't, no one else will. We're the generation that has the wisdom, the experience, and the perspective. We've lived through enough economic ups and downs. We've navigated career changes and successes and failures. We've built families. We made mistakes, many, many mistakes, but learned from them. And we're at a stage of life where we can share that without competing, without ego, without the need to prove ourselves to someone else. That's the power of crystallized intelligence that I've been talking about for a few episodes at this point. It's not about being the smartest guy in the room anymore. It's about helping the younger guys in the room get smarter. And right now, they need that more than ever. So let me tell you a story. So a few years ago, I was at a conference. I don't remember exact name of the conference, but I ended up having dinner with a group of mostly younger guys, mid 20s to early 30s, maybe. They started asking me questions about my career and about decisions I'd made along the way and about mistakes I'd made. And at first, I was a little uncomfortable with the whole scene. I'm not used to being the quote, wise elder, finger quotes. I feel like a lot of times I'm still trying to figure things out myself. But as the conversation went on, I started realizing they weren't looking for perfection. They were just looking for honesty. They wanted to hear, hey, here's what I tried. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't. Here's what I did differently or that I would do differently. And by the end of the night, one of them said to me, hey, thanks. I really appreciate it. Nobody talks about this stuff. Nobody tells us what it's really like. And that's when it hit me. If we don't tell them, who will? AI? AI? No, not really. I mean, AI can give them the data, but it can't give them wisdom. The internet? No, the internet can give them information, but it does so without context, really. Their peers? No, their peers are all figuring it out at the same time that they are. They need us. And here's why this matters so much right now. I believe we're at a crossroads as a country and as a culture. There's a whole generation of young men who are being told, many of whom are being told, you don't matter, you don't have a purpose, just take your check and get out. And if we let that message take hold, if we let an entire generation grow up without purpose, without mission, without identity, that's not just bad for them, it's bad for all of us. Because a society of purposeless men is not a healthy society. It's not a productive society. It's not a stable society. And it's not a free society either. So this isn't just about helping individual young men, although that's very important. This is about the direction of our culture and our country. This is about whether we're going to be a nation of builders or a nation of dependents, a nation of contributors or a nation of consumers, a nation of purpose driven men or a nation of aimless young men. And we get to play a role in that, not by ourselves, but as part of a movement of men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who are saying, hey, we're not done. We got something to contribute here, and we're going to share it. So that's why I believe that this is our responsibility, not because we owe it, but because we can, and because no one else can do what we can do. So let's talk about what that actually looks like. All right. So, what does it actually look like to step into the breach? Because I'm not talking about some grand heroic gesture and being some big influencer or guru or anything like that. I'm talking about regular, ordinary guys in our age cohort taking practical, everyday actions. And here's what that looks like. First, speak up. When you see a young man struggling, say something. When you see a narrative that dismisses men's contributions, push back. Politely, of course. When you see an opportunity to validate someone's purpose, take it. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be confrontational. But I believe you do have to be willing to say, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I've learned, and this is what I know to be true. Second, mentor. Find one young man, just one, and invest in him. Take him to lunch, answer his questions, share your story, or just take 5 or 10 minutes just to pull him aside and inquire about what's going on in his life. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be willing to um, do anything but share what you've learned. And if you're thinking, I don't have anyone to mentor, look around. They're everywhere. They're at your church, your gym, your neighborhood, your company. They're the guys who are quiet, who are uncertain, who are looking for direction. Reach out, start a conversation, offer to help. Third, document your wisdom. Write it down, record it, share it. You don't need a big platform. You don't need to be famous. You just need to start. And I'll take a little commercial break right here to do a little advertisement for graybeardassessment.com. This is a fully AI voice-powered conversation where we will take you through all of your entire career and personal experiences, capture all of your crystallized intelligence, your wisdom, your experiences, and produce a blueprint for you that will be extremely revealing in terms of its clarity and direction, and really revealing a lot about who you really are and what you really know, probably that you don't know that you know. So again, graybeardassessment.com. It's coming very, very soon. And yeah, so back to the podcast. So you just need to start. Maybe write a blog post, record a video, send an email to your kids or your team. Share one story, one piece of advice. Because here's the thing, your wisdom has value. And if you don't document it, it dies with you. Fourth, model purpose. What does this mean? Show the younger generation what it looks like to be a man of purpose, not by preaching, but by living, by continuing to build, to contribute, to lead, by showing them that life doesn't end at 50 or 60, it just transitions to a different phase. And that phase, the phase of crystallized intelligence, of mentoring or passing on wisdom, can be even more meaningful than the first phase. So let me tell you what that looks like for me. So a few months ago, I started the Graybeard Project, and the whole idea was I have 30 plus years of experience in all kinds of different fields. I've learned things, I've made mistakes, I've figured things out. I kind of wanted to share that and make a place where other people could share that as well. And not because I think that I'm special or anything, but because I think what I've learned and what all of you have learned that are in my age court actually has value. And if I can help one person avoid a mistake I made or solve a problem I've already solved, I think it's worth it. So I started writing, I started recording, I started sharing, and I started building. And you know what happened? People started reaching out, younger guys my age, even older guys saying, "Hey man, thank you. This is really good. This helped. Keep going." And that's when I realized this is the work that matters to us right now. Not by building my own empire or climbing my own ladder, but by really helping others build theirs. And that's what stepping into the breach looks like from my perspective. Again, it's not about being a hero, it's about being helpful. It's about having some answers, but not all the answers. It's about sharing what we've learned. It's about not necessarily being perfect, but it's about being present. And here's why this matters. What we have to offer, our wisdom, our experience, our humanity, it's never been more valuable. In a world where AI is ever present and impending, we offer human judgment. In a world of uncertainty, we offer a map. In a world of anxiety, we offer hope. And the younger generation, they're hungry for it. So this is our time. Not time to step back, but to step forward. Not time to retire from contribution, but to transition to a new kind of contribution. This is our time to lead, to mentor, and to guide, and to support, and to encourage. This is our time to extend the humanity of our 30 plus years of wisdom, really to the next generation. And what we do or don't do will shape the direction of our culture and our country. So let's step into the breach. All right. So let me bring this home. We've talked about how we got here, where the younger generation needs us, and what they need, why this is our responsibility, and what stepping into the breach looks like. And here's what I'd like for you to take away respectfully. This is our time. Not to fade into the background, but to step into the foreground. Not to retire from contribution, but to transition to the most meaningful contribution of our lives potentially. Because what we have to offer, our wisdom, our experience, our humanity, it's irreplaceable. And the world needs it right now, more than ever. So here's my challenge for you. This week, do one thing. Reach out to one young man, have one conversation, share one lesson, write down one piece of wisdom, record one story, send one email. Just do one thing, because that's how this starts. Not with a grand plan, but with one small step. And then another, until you've built something, a body of work, a legacy, a movement. Not for you, for them, for all of us, for our direction as a culture and a country. Because this, I believe, is the work that matters now. This is the contribution that only we can make. This is the responsibility that is ours to bear. So let's step into the breach and do it now. I'm Matt Hempel. This is Graybeard Radio. So next episode, we're going to be switching things up. We're going to have our first guest interview, and I'm really excited to introduce to you who this is going to be. We're going to be talking about AI. Most likely, our first guest is going to be an AI expert. And we're going to be talking about the impacts of that in the workplace, on the economy, and on people as individuals. So this is somebody who's living this stuff, and I'm looking forward to introducing you to that person. You're not going to want to miss it. So I will see you in the next one. Arrivederci.